G'day guys, Mac here with the Outer Circle, and today I have a mystery unboxing. Question is, what is inside the box? What's in the box today? I'll quickly do. Wind up the tripod. Let's see what we got. Oh, it's something big. Some more 1000 Suns parts, more Achaean pattern. So I've got the lovely Achaean pattern helmets. These look fantastic. And Achaean pattern shoulders with the scarabs and the orbus. I only thought I ordered one set of shoulder pads. I got two. Yeah, I did order one. Cool. Thanks, Forge World, for the bonus. I'm gonna pretend that's a customer loyalty thing. Legion Vehicle Crew, Space Marine Tank Crew, because I ordered a tank of, well, some description. Whoa. I know what this is. Come on. Mrs. is gonna kill me if she knew how much I spent. No, it's not a Titan, guys. Here I am trying to pull the outer casing of the box off. This actually really lovely box, and it's taped at the bottom. Okay, that's actually really well packaged. The Mastodon! Look, to be honest, I'm actually not that huge a fan of the design, but I wanted a centerpiece for my army. So, because over in my shelf, see, this is my display shelf. This is where I keep all the pretty things. I keep Primarchs on the top shelves. There'll be 9 on each side when they're finished. Some other sort of memorabilia of mine. Down here I've got some super heavy Lord of War stuff. The stuff in this shelf, this middle shelf, will probably be moved in favour of more 1000 Suns stuff, because I've pretty much filled up this whole cabinet. The squad that fills this slot is being painted at the moment. There is another Rhino size vehicle roughly. I'm thinking a Sicarian Venator maybe, to fill in the last position here. And down the bottom is some Mechanicus stuff I've been working on, which has been pretty fun. I've sort of made some cool conversions. So taking the Magos model, combining it with the Dune Crawler legs to make a Mechanicus Walker. I think it's a cool conversion anyway. And of course on the other side we have my Epic Titan Legio, which I've shown off on the channel before, which obviously I've got the Imperator Titan in the centre, Dies Array, the 4 Reavers and the 4 Warhounds, as well as a couple of my Armies on Parade winnings. Anyway, enough about that. This is all my rumpus room, so I can make a mess in here. If it was the lounge room, Mrs. would fucking kill me. Let's have a look at the Mastodon. Ooh. The Guide to Building Resin Models. Sure. If someone's building their first resin model and they start with a Titan or a Mastodon, I think they possibly might be insane. It's not the sort of thing a junior hobbyist should be tackling, in my opinion. I mean, we've all seen terrible fucking work done on, you know, awesome tanks and, you know, like Primarchs. Primarchs are fucking abused by people. So, personal opinion. Anyway, let's actually look at what we've got in here. So, some of the... Jeez, that was ziplocked. Front doors. Man, that's... It's got some mold lines on it, but it's actually pretty flat casting. Yeah, it's flat. Fuck. What else we got? Some tracks. It's almost worth... I think it'd almost be worth casting up a few of these for you. For on tabletops, making a few molds of these, because they look pretty good as bits of terrain, you know, broken tanks. So I'm just going to hang on to that thought. This is all like accessories in this box, in this packet, I think. Got doors for the back of the Mastodon, multi-melter hatch. Oh, what's that crazy melter gun that it's got called? Breaching melter or something? Siege breach melter. So that's all in that pack. Got this one. This looks like it's part of the sponsons and the crew. So I'm obviously going to merge the crew. Sorry, I should put that in focus. I'm obviously going to merge the crew out of this pack with the vehicle crew, just to get a mixture of different marks in there. I don't want just Mark 4. It gets a bit boring after a while. So this is all hatches, doors, part of the top of the Mastodon as well, from the look of it. A little bit of flash from the two-part mold. So this whole door is going to need to be cut out at some point. It's pretty flimsy. I can peel through it if I need to. Top plate of the Mastodon. I knew it was big. It actually is bigger than I thought. That's what she said, am I right? Yeah, terrible joke. Wow, these are solid chunks of resin right here. Well, they're belled out, machined out, so that's handy. Kind of saves on the weight. Pity there's no internal spaces. It would have been great to see a Thunderhawk style cockpit actually inside the... It'd be really good if I focused it, hey? It'd be really good to see a Thunderhawk style cockpit inside it. Instead it's just going to be hollow. There's a massive piece of flash running right around here. Not sure. I think that's big enough that I'm going to need to putty it up. I'm probably not going to be able to file or scrape that off. People will notice that kind of thing. This would be the sides. Oh, self-removing sprue. That's handy. Pretty straight. So not too much heating and bending involved, it looks like, to get that working. I'd say this would be the front and that'd be the back. So you could feel the soapiness from the mold releasing agent. Feels waxy on my fingers. Internal detailing. It's pretty cool. Not quite sure how I want to paint the interior. It's obviously going to be the first thing I paint. swapping sides, so my voice might change on the camera. Whoa. That's nice. That feels nice. I feel like that, if anyone's seen True Lies, when Arnold Schwarzenegger has the dude's voice, he's playing the little recording for Jamie Lee Curtis when she dances. Do it softly. Do it dulcimely. Somewhere, something like that. Obviously with spaces cut out for the tracks. Yeah, it's going to be pretty big. This is the biggest Forge World model I've ever made. By far not the biggest model I've made. I've made a lot of like spaceships and battleships over the years. What's this last pack? Oh, okay. More crew, bodies. So the arms are in that pack. Bodies are here. We have the machine guns from on top, the anti-air guns, the barrels for them, which are multi-part. Bit strange design. As well as void shields. So, wow, Mastodon. So a fair bit of work coming up for me. I know Michael from the Eye of Horus podcast has challenged me to a Maz-off. See who makes a Mastodon first. Just going to put it out there, Michael's a very busy guy, so I'm probably going to have more free time up my sleeve. And also, unlike Michael, I have like a bunch of power tools, as I'm a tradesman. So I've sort of got the advantage in that regard. Anyway, thanks for watching the episode. Once I actually get this thing assembled, I'll chuck up another video and talk a bit about it and how I found the experience. I might even film some of the work on it as I go. See how I'm feeling. See you all next time. Hey guys, Mac here with the Outer Circle, and today we're in my workshop. This is actually a large workshop attached to my house, or separate building to my house, but it's out here. What I'm doing at the moment is I'm preparing the parts of my Mastodon on one of my workbenches. Obviously removing all the flash at the moment and the pour over. All I'm using for it is a saw blade. Make sure you have the right amount of teeth. You want large teeth for getting rid of soft material, fine teeth for getting rid of very hard material. So in this case I'm using a 24 tooth saw blade, and I'm using a bastard file to do the rough work, and a warding file, little single cut warding file, in order to do the more delicate work. Just a quick look around my workshop as well, for curiosity's sake. We got my lathe here. Obviously got the stereo, screws, nuts, drawers over there. Workbench. Some of my machinery is it's very cold in Ballarat, so I often set up a little heater next to my main workbench. Tool drawers. There's some of the more interesting things I work on. These are barographs. So, delicate work, but it's quite fun. This is where I do some of my best work. Mostly on weekends. So, back to it. I've already started filing away at it. Now, you can see where I've already worn off a couple of the points where the flash was attached to. The reason I'm using the file is it's just easier than a die grinder. A die grinder will, because it's rotating in nature, will tend to grab and bite and try and pull itself off, and you've got to use a fair bit of control. With the file, however, I don't have that problem. I've been filing for years, and anyone who's done sheet metal work will tell you how what it's like filing long term. When you're using the file, you're making sure it's going flat across the surface. People make the mistake of trying to use pressure and push the file, and what ends up happening is it goes up on an angle and comes down on an angle on the other side. When you do that, instead of getting a nice wear across the center, you get bevels on each edge. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to keep filing away, and I'll come back after I've filed for a while. See you then. Alright, so moving away from my bin, I've now filed away the second part of the Mastodon. You see the file surface is actually concave. It's not actually a fuck up from my filing, believe it or not. The surface actually dips in, it's concave. Inside here, there's actually chunks of resin in the corners. So since that's more difficult to get out, all I've done is I've cut away a bit of the resin on the mating part, and this is just going to be the first test fit of these two parts. And it is raining quite a bit outside, so apologies if it's noisy. The one downside of man caves, eh? Alright. Alright, so the parts mate together pretty well. I do some fine tuning with it. This section here is still raised up slightly, so I'm going to sand it and file it a little bit more, get it nice and flat, because I want these two parts to bond together really well. I'm actually going to use, as I said before, 2-part epoxy resin to join them, so we'll see how it goes. Alright guys, next thing up on the list I'm going to do, now that I've successfully worked out how to get the parts to fit together correctly, if I put that in the camera would help, is I'm going to golf ball it. So just a point of note, I've used a scalpel, run it along the edges. It's created a bevel. Obviously this is a surface that you won't see, and it just keeps things neat. Nice neat joint that way. What I'm going to do is golf ball it, as I said. So what I'm going to do is take my 2 parts and a drill. This is one of my own little ones, only a little 12-volt drill, nice, cheap. Well, the drill isn't, it's Milwaukee. Milwaukee's very expensive. Put the torque setting right down on it. Going into regular drill mode. And I'm just going to drill a series of holes. Nothing deep. The important thing when working with resin, I should point out, I have one of these bad boys ready all the time. Proper filter mask. Because resin is a known carcinogen. You know, you inhale enough of the stuff, it's going to give you a really bad time down the track health-wise. So, something you really want to avoid if you can. So you're probably sitting there thinking, fuck, why is he drilling all these holes in his fucking brand new Mastodon? Well, what I'm doing is I'm artificially creating more surface area. So the exact same reason that we have this block on top of this part is the same reason that I'm adding all these holes into them. Because when I put the 2-part epoxy in, it's going to seep into the holes. And rather than being just a flat sheen across the surface. By seeping into the individual holes, it's going to be creating more surface area for them to bond into. We use techniques like this a lot when you're working with metals. Another good one is pinning, which we call doweling in the industry, but you know, same thing, different smell. Now, when you're working with the actual two-part epoxy resin, just keep in mind you can heat it up with a hairdryer, and it will actually not cure for longer. It'll re-liquefy slightly. So the more heat you put in, the more it'll re-liquefy. It's an important little thing to do along the way. Now that I've golf balled it, because you might find that components aren't quite lined up exactly. So you want to give them a helping hand wherever you can. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to go away, fine tune it a little more, because I'm not quite happy with some of the joints. They're gonna need filling in, because it's just the way it's been cast. You can see there's an obvious step on both sides. So I'm gonna go away, fiddle with that a little bit. I believe in reinforcing ribs attached here and here on both sides. So what I'll do is I'll put a little bit of filler in here at a later stage, but for now I'm going to prep it, clean the surfaces completely, because there's obviously dust and things like that on them at the moment, and the resin will glue to the dust, and then the dust itself will not be glued to the model, and it will peel off and parts will break. We don't want that. So once I've got that all cleaned up and ready, I'll come back and we'll attach the two parts together. Right, so I've wiped down both the surfaces I'm going to be joining with a bit of enamel thinners, and I've put two-part epoxy resin into this little stirring cup. So I'm obviously stirring the mix together very well using a paddle pop stick. I should really be wearing gloves for this, but I'm not. Yeah, whatever, I don't care. I have lots of acetone laying around the workshop. Acetone is what you use to get resin off your hands. If anyone's ever done fiberglass work, which sadly I have for boats and things like that, you'll learn that it's really good stuff. Put a bit on a cloth, wipe your hands off, it's fantastic. Now, the cure time on this is approximately 5 minutes. It can run out depending how much of the two parts you put in, if you didn't measure it out correctly. I'm waiting for it to just start to get a little bit tacky before I put it on. I don't want it to be like water when I pour it on. Otherwise, it's just going to run straight off. Or when I put the two parts together, it's going to dribble straight out the side and head down, and it won't flow up into the golf balling I've done in the top half. Now, this, once it cures fully, turns white. This particular resin. So I want to see it starting to go tacky before I put it on. Being older resin that I had around, and I do have new stuff, but I'm hoping to get away with using the old stuff. It doesn't cure as well. So, again, I want to see that it's curing correctly first before I actually apply it to the model. Nothing worse than having uncured resin on your model. It's a real fucking prick to get off. So let that sit for a moment. I've also made myself compression molding chambers, things like that before. I make my own bases and objective markers quite a bit. It's a pretty easy process, really. All I've done is fit a pressure relief valve, an inlet outlet into a sealable container to actually use for spray painting. In fact, it's right down there. And what I can do is I can use an air compressor to create either a vacuum or to create pressure inside, so it removes all the air bubbles from the work that I create. Stirring, stirring, stirring. It's very exciting stuff. Looks like it's starting to slowly go off. See, it's now Probably can't see because my hand's in the way, but it's starting to become more clingy, and the long strings of resin. Again, 5-minute cure time, so I want to see it starting to turn into, so it's more feeling like a paste than a water. Now I'm going to apply it using the paddle pop stick, icy pulse stick, whatever people like to call it, where they're from. I don't want to go pouring it onto the model because you've got no control over it when you're pouring it, and that's really bad for you. It's very exciting stuff, isn't it? Mixing resin. You can hear the rain pitter-pattering down outside. As I say, this isn't your typical tutorial, this is a bit of a hobby vlog, if you will. I've got another thing that I can add in. It's often used in creating our gel coats, that kind of thing. Let me just see if I can grab some. You ever wondered how you get resin to be a certain colour? It's pigment. It's like a little paint pot. And all it takes is a tiny little bit. If I use that tiny little bit on a stick, just darken the end up grey. I'll take a little bit more. I'm going to put it into my resin mix. Swish it around inside. And it's now added a coloured swirl through it. That's starting to turn it grey. Funny enough, it's going grey like the actual cup that it's in. Huh. How quaint. That's my phone buzzing, so I'll be back in a bit. Alright, sorry about the phone call. Now, the resin's thickened up nicely. Look at that. So, I'm now applying it to the model. Not putting too much on at once. I just want to get it into the golf balls. Because again, that's where we're going to get all our surface area from. Part number 2, repeating the same process. Again, it's curing, so I have to work reasonably fast now. Doesn't need to be precise. Alright. And 2 become 1. Now what I'm going to do is apparently get another phone call. Now, while that phone is buzzing, and I get a nice flat surface, place it on the flat surface so that it dries flat. Once that's dried, I'll finish off the video. Alright, and we're back. So, final part of the video. I've attached the two parts together, laid it out flat, made sure it mates up with the matching components in the other part of the Mastodon, or other parts. In order to get the correct proportions, in order to get a good fit, I've actually put stainless steel washers in, stainless steel so they don't rust, and a stainless steel screw, which I've capped with a little bit of resin. There we go. Again, stainless steel doesn't rust. If you use galvanized, eventually over time it will rust, and brass, copper, that kind of thing are soft and corrode anyway. So yeah, there it is. First part of the Mastodon built. As I said, it's designed to fit flush with the other parts. If I have to put filler into these gaps, I will. But so far, pretty happy. As I said, I've test fitted it on the sides in order to make sure that it lines up. Because obviously this panel line across the top and this panel line across here both need to mate up flush with components in the lower half. Obviously I have to repeat this step several more times with the other components. I don't know if I'll do any video log on how I do it, because you've got the basics now on mixing resin and how I'm actually going about it with my crazy filing. So next one you see will probably mostly be assembled. I'll see you guys then.